take the time to get to know a little bit more about Lorna Bateman, the woman behind Lorna Bateman Embroidery. So we just got a few questions to ask you today. But first things first, what got you into embroidery?
I've been embroidering since I was a young child. I went to a convent and the nuns taught me already in junior school. And I went on after school to try all sorts of hobbies and different crafts, from pottery, painting. I was a quilter for a long time, and then I met somebody, Leslie Delport, who introduced me to textured and three-dimensional embroidery, and I was immediately and completely hooked.
And so what started off as a hobby became a full-time job?
Yes, very fortunately. I always say I feel guilty when I say to people I earn a living from something that I love doing so much. Yeah, I've managed to survive now for more than 30 years, 35 years, earning a living and scraping by, but I absolutely love it and I wouldn't change it.
So how did you train initially?
I met Leslie Delport. She was renowned in South Africa and worldwide as a textile designer, and did embellishment on clothing and things. And she saw my work when I did a course with her and asked me if I'd like to be a franchise teacher with her. And there were 6 of us. She employed 6 of us. We set up our own studios in the various towns, but she initially trained us. And I would do a course a week at a time. So at that stage I was living in Port Elizabeth with my 3 boys, and I would fly to Johannesburg for a week, and she trained me in a particular discipline. It would be silk ribbon embroidery, and then the following time it would be shadow applique. And so I slowly went through all the disciplines over about a 2-year period. Yeah, and from there I was off. Set up my own studio at home. I was school teaching still. My students were actually fellow school teachers who all wanted to learn to embroider. I happened to be going through a divorce at the time, and I had enough students to get a small studio going, and over a 2-week period I eventually landed up teaching 80 odd students over 2 weeks. So I had, I think it was 11 classes of 6 to 8 pupils each, and I taught them, as I say, in my studio. And that's how it's all started. And at that stage I wasn't teaching my own designs, I was teaching Leslie's designs as being one of her franchise teachers. But she, it's like anything, you know, somebody asks you, they stitch one of her kits, then they want to do something different and it's not maybe one of the kits, and I'd sketch something for them. So you slowly develop the confidence to do your own thing as well. And then I left South Africa in 1999, moved across to the UK. And again, similar here, I was encouraged. I joined 4 embroiderers guilds, and I joined a patchwork and quilting guild. Made some friends, and when they wanted to know all about me and what I did, and I showed them some of my work, they encouraged me to carry on and to import stuff from South Africa. And I started doing shows here in the UK.
And from then you've gone on to teach in the UK and write your own book.
Mm-hmm.
How have you found all of that?
Right, so back in 2002, I'd worked as a receptionist at our local sports centre. It was sort of affiliated to the fact that I have a degree in PE and physical education and psychology, and I enjoyed that very much. But at the same time I slowly started teaching and doing shows. I was invited to do various shows with another friend who was selling product in the UK as well. And that's how I initially got going in the UK, was doing shows and demonstrating at shows. And it was through demonstrating at shows and people were saying, well, I need a kit in order to complete a project, that I landed up doing very, very simple kits. And I would send out instructions with the silk ribbons and photographs. But of course the girls had to trace their own designs. And I set up a website, or my eldest son helped me. And then from there, as people find you, a lot of people, especially the American market, want the design pre-printed onto the fabric. So I started screen printing my little designs, and it just slowly grew from there, from an actual registered sole trader business back in 2002 to where I am now. It's just grown exponentially. I have help 3 times a week and to help pack the kits. And many years ago, Search Press approached me to do a book. And I always used to say to Roz, who was the editor, one of the editors, I'm not ready, I don't have the confidence. And back in 2016, when she came to one of the shows I was at, I said, okay, thumbs up, I'll go for it. And the idea for the book came about through one of my students in particular, who always had to do everything by the book. She wanted it exactly so. She kept on buying kits from magazines and actually buying the kits. And I'd say to her, but Elma, you can draw your own. And she said, no, she can't do that. And so the idea of creating something and creating your own garden, I mean, I think it's obvious from the designs on my websites that I'm flower mad. And she wanted a little garden, and I drew her little garden, and she stitched it, and then I stitched it. And then I got the idea, together with a book on gardening, of how to arrange a garden and create your own garden. I applied it to the embroidery. And over about a 3-year period of stitching and writing, the book was eventually published in 2019.
And do you think a book number 2 is on the horizon anytime soon?
Yes. Slowly I'm getting there. I've written quite a bit. It's the stitching now of the designs. My idea is there. Search Press asked me to write another book. And a lot of people associate me with silk ribbon embroidery. And so this one will contain silk ribbon embroidery together with, using crewel stitches and regular surface embroidery stitches as well. I can't stitch only in silk ribbon. I have to combine the two. I like the flowers to be, if they're embroidered in silk ribbon, the flowers need to be realistic and lend themselves, I should say, to being created in silk, with silk ribbons. So some of them are in thread and some of them are in ribbon. The piece that I've got sitting here in front of me, one of my most recent, or in fact the most recent piece, which is a wildflower garden, and I've combined both threads and ribbons to create it, and that's where I'm going to go with in the book.
Great. So if a student wanted to come and learn from the best of the best, how would they do that? I hear you've just come back from a week-long course.
Yes, I teach for crafty creative experiences. They used to be the Alpine experience, and it's been my privilege to work with them now since 2014, and I've done many trips to the Alps, and now they're expanding and moving all over Europe. And I had the very good fortune 2 weeks ago to teach in Madeira with them, and I had 14 fabulous students who produced great work. Through their enthusiasm, I'm now very enthused to carry on with the book.
And what about if you wanted more of a taster session?
I've had a 3-year break from local teaching, and randomly last year, a local resident in our village of Medstead popped in to buy a kit when she realised how close I was, and she offered to let me use her barn. She's got a stunning barn on her property, purpose-built, and I had my first 2-day workshop there last week, and I'm going to be running monthly workshops, and keeping them to 2 days. It works well. Either students can come for 1 day or 2 days. That's entirely up to them, but the classes themselves will be geared around a 2-day workshop.
And if students wanted to book onto that, how would they go about doing that?
They would have to email me. We've got a list of the classes, I think up until the end of May, up on the website on lornabatemanembroidery.com under workshops. Studio workshops, I think, is the drop down, and they can see if what is there, if it appeals to them, and then they can just email me. I take a deposit and sign them up. We do 8 in a class at a time, so it's not a huge class. There's lots of individual attention over the 2 days.
And if someone wanted to get starting on embroidery tomorrow, what would your tips to them be? What would a good starting point be?
Well, I mean, the goal behind my teaching has always been working with beginners. I love teaching beginners. I find it extremely rewarding. Equally, I love seeing people that are more advanced, experimenting with something that I've done and taking it and making it their own. Beginners, I think I get the most joy from, simply because it's seeing them master something and create something that they never thought they were capable of doing. A lot of my kits are aimed at beginners, be it silk ribbon or stump work or just surface embroidery. We offer quite a wide variety of kits. I think at the moment we were counting this morning, we've got something like 67 different designs online. Yeah, so if they were starting out, buy one of our taster kits, one of our beginner kits. All you need really is a hoop. Needles come with the kit. Everything's in there, full set of instructions, detailed instructions, and of course I'm always at the end of an email if somebody needs help.
Great. Going to move on to maybe some more specific questions now. What would you say the biggest challenge you've faced in your 30 years of teaching embroidery?
Oh, I suppose writing the book, that was the hardest thing. Because it was fine embroidery, it was called Embroidered Country Gardens, and all the gardens were done using thread. It was far more time consuming than had it been silk ribbon embroidery. So it took me a long time trying to run a business. The challenge comes with running a business, doing mail order, and then writing and stitching as well. So yes, I would say probably in my career, my biggest challenge was the book, which is done really, really well. So I'm very pleased that it took a lot of time because I wanted it aimed at beginners, but also give more advanced embroiderers a challenge to create something of their own and run with my idea behind the book.
Do you have a favourite kit that's currently on your website?
I love my cottage garden, the one that's currently featured in Stitch magazine on the front cover. But I also love the piece I'm working on now, which is the wildflower garden. I think of all the disciplines, I love silk ribbon. It obviously doesn't lend itself to every single design, and it's not to everybody's taste. And if it's well done, it looks really good. But I would say, if you had to say to me which was your favourite discipline, it would be silk ribbon embroidery.
Do you have a favourite flower that you like to stitch?
I have lots of favourite flowers. I'm always saying, well, that's definitely my favourite flower. I think it's as you discover different flowers, you're more excited about them. My recent finds, we were in Italy. I was in Italy, in Tuscany last year, and we stopped at a shop to buy drinks and things, and there was a beautiful little wildflower garden, and I came across Meadow Rue and Meadow Sweet, which are two wildflowers, and I'd never seen them before, and they were in full bloom and they were absolutely exquisite. So at the moment I'm nuts about them, but that's with thread, not with silk ribbon. So yeah, I love all flowers. I'm flower mad. I garden as well as stitch, so yeah.
You're surrounded by it.
Yeah.
Do you have anyone that's been particularly inspiring within your work, whether that's another embroiderer or just an artist in general?
Obviously Leslie inspired me and still continues to inspire me. She's written over a dozen books. But there are, Judith Baker Montano was another person who had a big influence on me, because I found her through quilting, because she was a crazy patch quilter, but she did a lot of embroidery with it. So it was, for me, it was a lovely way of mixing the two. I love quilting and I love crazy patch and the embroidery that goes with it. So those two were definitely influence at the beginning of my career. I mean, it's so difficult to name particular people. Helen Erickson, Jane Nicholas in Australia, here in the UK, Jane E. Hall, Jenny Aiden Christie, and lots of the RSN girls are very inspiring. But I think Jenny Aiden Christie here was the first person. She actually moved me to tears when I saw her work. The White Work exhibition. I hadn't been here long. I couldn't believe anybody did something so beautiful. I mean, I have hundreds of books, literally. So I'm always finding something new that I love and somebody that's inspiring. And I'm a firm believer in the more books you read, the more courses you attend, you broaden your knowledge, you find what works for you, and you land up with a particular style, which hopefully is uniquely my own. But always I draw inspiration, and I draw a lot of inspiration from nature itself. I'm forever photographing flowers in the fields, drive my husband nuts when we go for walks because I stop every few minutes and photograph leaves or thistles or whatever.
And if we wanted to go and buy one of your kits or buy any of the products that you sell, where is the best place to go do that?
Well, as such, we're not a shop, although we do have the odd person pop in, but our studio is mostly for packing kits and where I obviously sit and stitch. If you want to purchase a kit online, you've got my website, which will pop up at the end of this video. And I also sell on Etsy. I've been selling on Etsy now since 2009, and we're well over 15,000 sales. Yeah, so either or.
And to stay in touch, how's best to follow along with what you're up to or keep up to date on the latest news?
All right, so we do I'd like to say bi-monthly, but it's not always bi-monthly. Sometimes it's just once a month. But I do try and get out a newsletter twice a month. That'll update maybe with classes, new products. I've also got a blog that I occasionally work on and do write something like, for example, the sort of ins and outs of silk ribbon embroidery. I did a blog on that type of thing. I'm on Instagram, Lorna Bateman Embroidery again, and on Facebook.
Great. Well, I think that's answered a lot of the questions. If anybody has any further questions, please pop them down below in the comments section, and I'm sure we can get another video going to ask you some more in the future.
Thank you very much.